Today we're going to be looking at the Plandemic trailer, which was released on YouTube a few days ago. The main focus of this is this woman, Judy Mikovits. Her main areas of expertise while she was still working was bloodborne pathogens, mainly HIV, AIDS, and Ebola. Alright, let's take a look at that PhD thesis. It isn't revolutionary, and it doesn't claim to be. All that it is providing evidence that natural killer cells may play a role in the prevention of HIV infection. Alright, let's watch some of this.
1991 doctoral thesis revolutionized the treatment of HIV/AIDS. At the height of her career, Dr. Mikovits published a blockbuster article in the journal Science. The controversial article sent shockwaves through the scientific community as it revealed that the common use of animal and human fetal tissues were unleashing devastating plagues of chronic diseases.
Let's take a look at this paper that sent ripples throughout the scientific community. It's just a paper that associates XMRV viruses with chronic fatigue syndrome. Unlike this, documentary is the strong word. All of my sources and timestamps for everything is going to be in the description below. So, there were a few inherent flaws with this paper, and a lot of studies came out after that went to disprove it. The first flaw is that they used different reagents when they did PCR on the control samples versus the people with chronic fatigue syndrome. One of these reagents is actually believed to be contaminated with XMRV viruses. This is what could have caused their false positive. Finally, the paper was retracted, even by the woman herself. In a $2.3 million study with the participation of over 30 laboratories, there was no evidence found linking XMRV to chronic fatigue syndrome, putting the debate to rest.
Judy, you wanted to add something?
Exactly. I mean, we so rigorously excluded our initial findings that these agents, MLV, XMRV, is in blood, and of course a lot from the lymph system pours into the blood. We've looked at the plasma, we've looked at the serum by deep sequencing technologies, and our original work cultured it at length. It's simply not there, but now is the time to use these valuable materials and move forward. And that's what science is all about.
I legitimately do not know what changed between that clip and now. She was allowed to participate in the study, and it followed what her lab group did exactly.
So you made a discovery that conflicted with the agreed-upon narrative.
Correct.
And for that, they did everything in their powers to destroy your life.
Her life and reputation were not destroyed by the man or someone above her or someone trying to take her down. They were destroyed by her own inability to admit that she was wrong on something.
What he's saying is absolute propaganda, and the same kind of propaganda that he's perpetrated to kill millions since 1984.
Woo! Okay, now we're getting into the hard conspiracy stuff. There's nothing to say about this. She provides no evidence for this claim.
It started really when I was 25 years old. I was part of the team that isolated HIV from the saliva and blood of the patient.
This one, however, we can look into, because there's no evidence that she was part of this team. Her first paper was her PhD thesis published in May of 1986. This is nearly 2 years after the paper that linked HIV to AIDS.
It's still been crushing to me to think that I didn't know my work in 1999 was something that had been avoided. From 83 and 82, when the virus was isolated, the virus didn't have to wait until 84 to be confirmed. Think of how many people, the entire continent of Africa, lost a generation.
This one is odd. Unless she's hoarding the cure for HIV/AIDS, because we still don't have a definitive one, or knows how to run a successful public information campaign in rural Africa, I'm unsure of what she exactly thinks could have been done here.
We're working together to take credit and make money, and they had the patents on it and tailored them to IL-2 therapy, which was absolutely the wrong therapy. And had that not happened, millions wouldn't have died from HIV.
Okay, let's look at this. She proposes that they essentially covered up alternative treatments so that they could receive patents and receive funding. Fauci, to date, has received $45,000 for having his name on the patent for interleukin-2, and he has donated this money to charity as he saw it himself as a conflict of interest. If the documentary was actually concerned with what they're making, they are government employees and their salaries and what they actually receive are all part of the Freedom of Information Act. If they had applied for this and gone and looked at the numbers, I think they would have seen their error of their ways. This was easily looked into and speaks to this documentary's total lack of understanding of what is a fact and what is an opinion, and what can be presented and what cannot. And to be honest, someone who gets this money and then donates it to charity is someone who I would think would be a decent choice for determining funding and heading up a government committee.